Imagine hustling and grinding all your life, but when you finally achieve your goal of becoming the single strongest exorcist in the world, still not satisfied and eager to learn more, all the losers and haters around you get jealous. While he was studying magic, they were preparing for his downfall, and well, that's how his story ended. He was done in by the haters. However, in his last moments, he succeeded in initiating a spell that would one day reincarnate him someone else. The man's name was Haruyoshi Kuga, and from as long as he can remember, he wanted power. More, and more. Until, of course, the night came when his undying lust for power drove others to orchestrating his own downfall. In the end, the one who took his life was his best disciple. But it was alright because the man knew. He knew that he'll start again. And he knew that this time, he won't make the same mistakes. He'll still seek strength, but be smarter and more deceitful about it. The next thing we see is a noble family using a ritual to check the magical potential of their son. The father, named Blaze Lampro, performs the ritual while his two older brothers observe. Soon it becomes very clear that this little boy is incapable of using magic. His name is Seika Lampro, and well, you guessed it folks, he's the reincarnation of history's strongest exorcist. But having no magic doesn't faze him at all, because he still has all of his spiritual powers and demon servants, which means he's every bit as fearsome as he was before. But of course, rather than flaunting it all, he makes sure that none of his family catch wind of his true abilities. Though another thing that separates him from his brothers, other than his magical ability, is unlike them, he's the child of a mistress, so in their eyes, he's an inferior person. Their names are Gray and Luft. Gray's the one who goes out of his way to bully Seika, while Luft may not do that, he still doesn't acknowledge him. For what it's worth, his only true friend and companion in the mansion is a family slave named Yifa. She's a young girl about the same age as Seika. Apparently, she can't use magic either, and therefore both of them can't go to the Ladonia Magic Academy. Gray makes sure to bully them about it, and how Seika will have no choice but to enlist in the army. Next, they're taken outside by their father so that they can show their magical abilities. In front of them are 3 boulders. Luft, being the oldest, destroys it with wind magic, Gray melts it using fire, and then proceeds to tell Seika to try, whilst completely aware that Seika is supposed to have no magical prowess. Luft tells Gray to stop the bullying since their father was watching. Seika decides to give it a go, and he isn't planning on going easy. By using his complete mastery over the 6 elements of nature, that is water, fire, earth, light, air, shadow, Seika conjures up a blue ball of fire without even using an incantation and shocks everybody. His brothers are confused, but Papa Blaze explains that there are sometimes people who can still use magic without having the ability to do so, and their unusual nature can also cause the color of their flame to change. So Seika asks if he can go to the academy, but Papa's not so sure about that because without having a natural proclivity to use magic, it's impossible to be successful. But still, he starts tutoring him along with the other 2. Eventually, he turned 11 years old. One day, as he recalls how he tamed several spirits in his past life, he tries summoning one. Suddenly, a white-haired, overly friendly girl appears and looks like she doesn't want to be sent back to the other world. So she changes her appearance to that of a cute little fox, and her name is Yuki. Following this, Gray was bullying Yifa, but Seika came in clutch. He then takes him outside to show a wounded creature who Seika conveniently heals when she isn't looking. But the quick recovery of the creature leads Yifa to decide that he has healing magic. And well, the conversation then leads to how Yifa herself has the ability to see and command spirits of nature. Although she isn't strong enough yet, Seika realizes that he has found himself a great ally. And so whenever they have time, he trains her on how to use her abilities better and how she can also imitate magic. Soon Seika turns 12 years old, but there's no celebration whatsoever. His brothers then tell him to come. They're gonna train him in the art of the sword, as that will be helpful in the army. But suddenly everyone is informed of a massive salamander monster just rampaging all over the place. He's currently approaching the monster. Gray quickly hides like the pathetic coward that he is. While Seika goes outside and everyone is watching, he kills the monster using a poison curse. But to everyone else, it looks like fire magic. That's right folks, the time has come for everyone to realize how truly exceptional Seika Lampro is, while his smug and arrogant brother Gray is a hack, a complete fraud. The evening of the same day, a feast was prepared to celebrate what Seika had just accomplished. His father had also returned and he was at the table, so Seika made sure to ask his father if he could go to the academy now. Very well then. His father gives him the go, but he also asks if Yifa can join. But Yifa doesn't know how to use magic, or so his father thinks. But she uses a magic wand to whip out fireballs out of nothing and gets the permission to accompany Seika. This was not good for Gray, because now that these two are going to the academy, he'll be stuck with no choice but to go enlist in the army, since only one from the family can go and attend. Yeah, I'm not sure if the army needs needs a clown like him, but Luft is better than this. He even gives Seika a pen as a gift. Anyway, Gray ends up challenging Seika for the right to go to the academy, but the poor guy never even stood a chance. And that's not even the best part. Believe it or not, from the massive salamander who attacked their mansion to the decision at the table, everything was part of Seika's plan. He asked a summoned servant to go provoke the monster. Just like that, Seika and Yifa depart on their journey to the academy. During the send-off, Blaze recalls how Seika is actually not his son. He's his brother Gilbert's son, who one day vanished in the demon territory. He always suspected that Seika's mother may have been a demoness, and in that case, this little kid may very well become the next Demon King. Still, Blaze hopes that Ladonia Academy can prevent such an outcome. While the two of them are in the capital, Yifa's under the impression that she'll have to join him in bed at night, and to be fair, she's looking forward to it, but Sigma Seika had no interest in that kind of thing. Then, at the entrance exam, he comes across a girl who reminds him of someone from his past. The girl is named Onmyouji. She's just a commoner, but with potent magical abilities. However, the thing that surprises Seika is how she looks just like his best disciple in his previous life. You know, the one who ultimately took his life with tears in her eyes. Sure enough, before the exam, the only one whose skills parallel that of Yifa and Seika is her. In fact, she did even better than them. When it was time to check one's magical prowess, she scored the highest in all elements, including light and dark, while Seika just skipped it because he can't use magic. During the exam itself, they have to destroy rock walls using magic. Yifa amazes everyone by using fire first and then wind. Seika's pretty proud of her. Next is his turn. Everyone thinks he's here because of his connections, but he uses his blue fireball on the first wall, shatters the second one with earth power, and then used water that turned into ice to freeze the third wall. Meanwhile, Onmyouji also performs exceptionally well in a different area. When the results are shown, Yifa is second, Seika is third, and I guess you guys could guess who's in first. It's Onmyouji. There's no doubt in anyone's mind that this girl would go on to become the next hero. Later, Yifa expresses her sadness at how she'll be in the girls' dormitory while Seika is in the boys' dormitory, but whatever. Seika soon notices a dark magic circle within the academy. He places talismans just in case, and then during the entrance ceremony, demons come out of it. Seika goes and confronts the one behind it, a devil named Gallios. It seems he's here to kill the hero, but Seika simply feeds him to his summoned dragon. The dragon tries to kill Seika too because he doesn't really have the same level of strength as in his previous life, but is abruptly sealed away. Subsequently, the demons who appear on the academy grounds, well, they're killed by Onmyouji. At this point, everyone starts fearing her due to her being too strong. Seika makes sure that he'll always stand out less than her, and also wants to be her friend. But he gets rejected. She has no interest, not even in being friends. Following this, Onmyouji and Seika accidentally trip in a magic circle and are immediately transported into a dungeon. There are plenty of trolls, the real ones. They knocked her unconscious, which conveniently gave Seika the pass to go all out. He summons a giant centipede to kill them all. When she wakes up, she appreciates his help, but seems to be having a migraine episode. Unfortunately, it was a curse. Though, fortunately, Seika was there, and he simply took care of it. This leads them to getting closer. She expresses herself, somewhat lewd sense of humor, and raging passion for fighting, and Seika gets on her wavelength to get along better. They then defeat the dungeon boss, get a mithril sword, and also a magic ring. Onmyouji takes the sword. When they return, Seika realizes that the one behind this was their teacher Cordell, who just so happens to be from the demon side. He placed that blood curse on Onmyouji and was trying to kill her, but Seika redirects that curse mark back to him and kills him instead. As for the ring, he gives it to Yifa, since it could increase her power to control spirits. Then there's Onmyouji. After the episode's over, she goes back to treating Seika harshly, but does become good friends with Yifa, so that's good. Time continues to pass, and before long, it's already been a year. By this point, of course, Seika, Onmyouji, and Yifa are friends for life, and there haven't been any cases of assassination attempts on Onmyouji either. Seika is asked by the principal to go to attend a combat tournament in the capital with a new student named Mabel. Onmyouji is visibly upset at how it's not her who was chosen, but the principal seems adamant on how it has to be Seika and Mabel for whatever reason. In fact, when Onmyouji and Mabel duel it out, she's humiliated by Mabel. The girl is no joke. When the tournament takes place, Seika defeats his first opponent and joins Yifa and Onmyouji in the audience. He then watches a match between two interesting characters, Bellin and Kyle. Bellin is a promising young student who gets brutally murdered in front of their eyes. He didn't even defend himself. Nobody knows what to think of this, but Seika knows that Kyle paralyzed him. Seika knew that this can't be ignored because there was no need to kill Bellin. Simply paralyzing him would have been more than enough. So that's why Seika believes that Kyle is an assassin. Mabel also wins her first match, which leads others to think that she's the hero, and well, during that night, when Seika captures and interrogates a spy, he learns that the demons now believe Mabel is the hero instead of Onmyouji. Seika then feeds the spy to his psychic servant who helped with the interrogation. However, he's a little confused. He knows for a fact that Onmyouji is the hero, so all this gimmick about Mabel being the hero makes him realize that someone is cooking up something. Going back to the tournament, Kyle once again brutally murders his opponent. While it seems that in the semifinals, the ones facing off are going to be Mabel and Seika, she goes ahead and warns our boy how if he doesn't quit now, he's gonna die. But before that, Kyle's next match takes place, this time up against a popular knight named Rhaenys. Indeed, Rhaenys was going to die, but the match is stopped right in time so that he doesn't. While observing the match, Seika realizes that Kyle and Mabel are both using gravity magic. Sure enough, later that night, she comes to his room and attempts to take his life, which further confirms his suspicion. Or maybe not. Maybe that was a false alarm, and Mabel isn't the bad guy. Seika makes the conclusion that all she was trying to do was injure him enough that he has no choice but to forfeit the tournament. But then she confirms that she and Kyle are actually soldiers from the Merchants Association. It was all indeed a conspiracy. Kyle's supposed to kill her during the final match, and in doing so, all the demons would believe that the hero is now dead, and that would trip them up in the future. Her red hair is actually fake. As for Kyle, he's a mutant who will finally prove his value by killing the supposed hero, who is in this case Mabel. But it looks like Seika is one step ahead of Mabel's story. He concludes that her goal is to kill Kyle, not the other way around. They're siblings, and by killing Kyle, she'll be able to end his suffering for good. Whatever the plan, Seika wasn't going to let anyone have their way. He defeats Mabel and goes on to defeat Kyle too, much to their surprise. Though for some reason, Kyle ends up asking him for Mabel's forgiveness. Sadly, it was in his last moment. He abruptly dies because of a curse. A funeral takes place and Seika asks Mabel to join the academy as a real student. She also undoes her hair and goes back to her pleasant silver hair, but nothing could have prepared her for all the harsh tutoring she'll have to go through under Seika and Yifa in order to make up for being a whole year behind everyone else. This takes us to the next arc of the anime. Seika is given the task of investigating the guardian dragon of Estella Kingdom. It has been protecting the kingdom for a very long time. Those who raised him to do so also happen to be the queen from the past. So they go and have a look at the situation. The young prince is captivated by Yifa's beauty. He ends up inviting her to join the royal harem, and seeing how this is a good opportunity for her to lift her status, Seika tells her that joining the royal harem is an honor. However, his words end up having a negative effect on Seika's psyche. When the dragon attacks their carriage, she freezes instead of protecting herself, even though she's fully capable of doing so. Later that night, Yifa, now being a supposed part of the harem, is summoned by the prince to join him for the night, but she gets scared and goes to sleep in Seika's bed instead. However, Seika tells her that joining the harem would be good for her future, still not realizing that she's actually in love with him. But he can see that she doesn't want to join, and therefore even when the prince offers to buy her for a price, Seika refuses. Back to the dragon, Seika did his research and realized that the only time in the past when it became violent was when his baby was born. So he then makes the decision to go visit the ally by himself. Subsequently, the prince's attendant, who happens to be an elf named Lise, talks to Yifa and mentions that the reason she can use spirit magic must be because she has an elf ancestor. When Seika is in the nest, he realizes that the dragon gained the ability to lay eggs after his female partner died, and the reason it's acting so aggressive is because it now has an egg. Going back to Yifa, she's shown by Lisa that the kingdom's royal harem actually happens to be a university for young women. Graduates become government officials, and one can even become a queen. Now, Seika and the dragon have an agreement, where Seika helps care for the egg. It seems the prince's mercenary named Zekt was trying to steal and sell the egg. Back in the mansion, the prince is now forcing Yifa to sign the wrong documents. It looks like he still hasn't given up on her. Thankfully, Seika shows up on the dragon right in time and saves his lady. They also capture Zekt. Still though, the prince, being a clown, states that the dragon will be killed anyway. He's under the impression that a bold decision like this will raise his status. However, Seika has had enough of his nonsense. He reprimands him to the point where the prince's attendant Lise agrees and also apologizes to both Seika and Yufa. The shame gets through to him and he decides to let the dragon live his life. Before they return to the academy, Lise gives Yufa light spirits as a gift, which will raise her healing magical ability. And obviously, the demons were going to give up on killing the hero so easily. So a team of 5 strong demons set their crusade to finally kill the hero for good. By this point in the story, Seika's family returns. His father's interested in meeting Onmyouji. Seika wonders that maybe that's because of politics. Then there's Gray. Believe it or not, he actually enjoys it in the army, though he still seeks a duel with Seika. Onmyouji decides to fight instead, and she ends up losing to Gray and his cheap tricks. Gray also introduces them to Fiona. She's the daughter of the Emperor, the king's holy princess. This raises alarms in Seika's head because politics seems strong with this one, but he also can't ignore how Fiona looks, just like his wife from the previous life. Onmyouji and Seika have a brief conversation where she asks him about his plans after graduation. The boy pulls out the Riz card and tells her that he wants to go on an adventure with her. Speaking of the Riz card, when they visit the nearby town, Fiona holds Seika's hand all day. But when she trips and falls, the one who saves her isn't Seika, it's Gray and Onmyouji, and that makes her a little sad. Gray then talks to Seika about her, how her magical powers allow her the ability to see glimpses of the future. This is how, despite being the daughter of a mistress, she was able to scheme her way into becoming the kingdom's holy princess. She may even become the empress one day, and Seika can be sure that she's plotting something that involves both Onmyouji and him. This was valuable information. Seika doesn't want her visions of the future to cause problems, so he avoids her. He did end up playing chess with her though, and even though the girl was using fewer pieces to give herself a handicap, she still won. As a reward for winning, she says that she'll ask Seika for a favor in the future. Still though, by observing her playstyle, our boy was able to learn that Fiona isn't in support of the current political system, so she's deliberately trying to get popular in the eyes of the public. For the time being, Seika decides it's a good idea to support her. Now, remember those 5 demons? They defeat and eat a group of bandits. As for their identities, we have Zor, the devil god, Mudarev, the strongest ogre, Loni, the monster tamer, Priscilla, the evil eye, and Gulganis, the devil. Then there are assassins who disguise themselves as bandits to attack the carriage Fiona was inside. But thanks to Seika, they're all captured alive. Fiona also knew about this attack because of her vision, so she's going to use this to get a political advantage. The assassins start waiting for the reinforcements, but of course, they get eaten by those demons. And Fiona knows about this as well. Moving on, when Fiona arrives at her place safely, she reminds Seika that whatever happens, she will be on his side. Something about this gives bad vibes. When they return to the academy, Seika is chosen as the student representative who will welcome the next batch of first years. By this point, our boy is comfortable with drawing attention to himself. He knows about the demons who are approaching the academy. Their leader, Zor, is a little conflicted for hiding from his team that they will lose their lives in trying to kill the hero, and that this is most certainly a suicide mission. When they arrive at the academy to kill the hero, they're taken aback because the academy is covered in an unusual red fog. Seeing this, Zor realizes that they should just abandon this mission, but it's too late. Seika is already here. Zor, who has the ability to see people's true power, is horrified beyond belief when he sees Seika casually beheading Madari. Seika's demon White Snake takes care of Priscilla's evil eye using its own evil eye, while Loni tries to tame White Snake using his abilities. Our snake eats him for lunch. Zor witnesses it all happen and then uses his knowledge of the prophecy to tell Gulganis that this man is the most terrible demon king. He wants Gulganis to flee and inform everyone that the demon king is an ally of humans, but Seika quickly gets rid of Zor using that fireball, and even though Gulganis escapes using teleportation, Seika enters the chat using substitution and stabs him through the heart. One person saw this happen in real time. That person is Mabel, although she reassures Seika that his secret is safe with her. Next, the entrance ceremony takes place, but suddenly the Direct Knights show up and announce Onmyouji is under arrest for killing a demon emissary who was here strictly for diplomatic purposes. Seika tells her to go along with the imprisonment for now until they figure this out. The principal's on the side of the main characters. He explains that the politicians want to get rid of the hero, hence this accusation. Seika ends up invading the imperial prison to save her. He kills the soldiers and gets the girl, who is still under the impression that her innocence will be proven and she'll get taken out of here alive. But Seika explains that she is the hero, and if someone wants the hero gone, the hero's innocence is irrelevant. So, who's behind this then? Well, it's Gray and Fiona. They're the ones who plotted Onmyouji's death. Their reasoning? Humans and demons are in a stalemate right now. Because of the existence of the hero, war can resume at any moment. Therefore, Onmyouji should die for the sake of peace. But because Onmyouji's abilities have yet to mature due to Seika always protecting her, it's fine for her to return to the academy, or so Fiona states. This makes Seika wonder if this is how Fiona envisioned it all to take place, how killing Onmyouji was never her intention. Realizing this, he decides to leave the academy and go on an odyssey, an adventure with Onmyouji. Of course, Yifa and Mabel will be joining them on this journey, and just wouldn't feel right without them. However, this story is still only just begun. Fiona is seen talking to a shadow about who exactly Seika is. It's revealed that Seika is the Demon King who will protect the hero. Later, Onmyouji and Seika meet Yifa and Mabel in the town, and the next chapter of their life begins. And that's the end of the video. As always, if you liked what you saw, subscribe to the channel. I'll be uploading a lot of videos just like this, so I'll see you at the next one.